OK, here are this week's talking points, and there is only one place we can start, which was with the most troubling incident of this week, and that was the fatal injury incurred by Gold Dancer in the Mildmay Novices Chase. He won the race. He appeared to injure himself when making a very serious mistake and losing his hind end at the last. He carried on to the line, and then he had to be euthanised after the line because he broke a bone in his lumbar region, according to the veterinary team. Now, this has been the subject of much conversation and no small amount of controversy in the interim. Should Paul Townend have pulled him up after the last? The BHA's Director of Equine Safety and Welfare, James Gewan, corroborated Paul Townend's view that it was not immediately obvious that the horse had gone wrong, and he felt that his gait was not atypical of a horse who was finishing a staying chase. That, again, has been the subject of some debate. We have made the decision not to show you this again, but this is what Paul Townend said in response to Lydia's questions on this yesterday after his Grand National success.
Now, I know that you're incredibly professional. This has been a challenging 24 hours for you, obviously, because we saw what happened to Gold Dancer yesterday. He won the Grade 1 Mildmay Chase, but he obviously sustained a fatal injury. He was euthanised due to, we presume, the mistake he made at the last fence. You've had some time to deal with it. What are your reflections?
Yeah, look, no one was as upset as me because I was the closest to it in what happens. We love these horses, but like obviously, had I known then what I know now, we'd have stopped. When we landed, he gathered himself and he galloped up to the line and felt fine until we eased back to a trot and tried to turn the bend.
Yeah, you said in the steward's inquiry evidence that it was only as he rounded the bend that his gait changed. Now, many people watching on telly perceive that they saw his gait change from the last to the line. From your perspective, from a jockey's perspective, how do you tell the difference between a horse that has gone wrong behind, potentially, and one that has just reacted to a bad mistake and is potentially tired?
We can only tell from feel. He's the end of 3 miles. He would put up a bold jumping performance, and you know, we'd been on the pace all the way. He was tired, but when he regained himself and galloped out to the line, I can only go off feel. He ran as straight as a die, and one stride he was back up, popped back up, and galloping again. He felt fine to me.
Okay. Paul, thank you for answering those difficult questions. I want to end on a positive note. We won 2 Grand Nationals, second in one with this horse. Willie's talking about coming back next year. I reckon you want to be part of that, don't you?
It'd be lovely, wouldn't it? It's a long way away yet, and we'll definitely enjoy this one, though.
Yeah, equal red run, perhaps.
We'll see.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thoughts for third Grand National on IMAX was putting that broad grin back on Paul Townend's face, but considered responses to Lydia's questions there as regards Gold Dancer. So, from a rider's point of view, Lisa, if something like that happens, is it possible that you don't know anything about it when you're on board, even if to the naked eye, looking from the grandstand, it seems that the horse's action or gait might have slightly changed?
It's about feel and instinct. And instinct straight away to Paul Townend obviously was that the horse was okay, and he continued with the race. He landed sprawled at the back of it, and obviously with that next stride that you take, you see is the horse, you feel the horse and feel, is he okay to take the next stride? Obviously Paul felt that he was, and he continued, and as he mentioned, not till he got to the bend, when you take a bend, a horse's stride shortens slightly, and that's where he felt that the massive difference was.
And you could actually see Harry Cobden almost calling over to him. I think it was obvious to Harry looking at him more than it was to Paul on the horse. That's what I'm intuiting from their body language at that point.
Yeah, but often shock and adrenaline can keep you going, and possibly that's what the case was with Gold Dancer. And Paul felt with his feel and his instinct that he was okay, and he continued. And yeah, it was difficult difficult watch after the line. But as he said, nobody will be more hurt over it than obviously himself. The whole team at Clough Sutton as well. We seen Impire Pass fall at the last, obviously earlier in the bowl, and there was shots of Amy Morrissey leading him back in, full of tears. Like the whole team back at Clough Sutton, these animals are so well looked after, and they mean so much to everybody back there. So it's, you know, it's a big loss for them.
Yeah, that's not in doubt. But obviously, this was, Dave, an episode that was, you know, very much in the public eye, under very close scrutiny. I had quite a long conversation with Richard Hoyles yesterday, who was commentating for ITV, and his instinct, watching, was that the horse had gone wrong halfway up the running, and he was sitting next to Ruby Walsh, who was with him. Is it then easier in that context to understand why people watching on are thinking, well, if it's noticeable to the callers and to members of the public, then the jockey should have pulled him up?
I can understand that view, but I suppose, and you watch on, and people viewing saw Harvey Cobden clearly saw something himself when he was pulling up. But I spoke to jockeys who now work in the media, Davil Jacob, a couple of others about it. He said, as a jockey, can you get that? He said, I've had it. I've had horses fracture pelvises, back injuries, and I've not felt a thing. It doesn't feel like a cow with a flat tire. It's all down to feel. I mean, I don't believe for a second, nobody does, that if Paul Townend thought that Gold Dancer had suffered the injury that he had, that he wouldn't have pulled that horse up immediately.
And it was interesting to me that in the statement, and I interviewed James Given about this, and so did Rishi on ITV, that he said, oh, to my eye, watching the video, I would support as a vet Paul's contention. But I'm not sure the two things are mutually exclusive, insofar as you can watch on and say that horse's gait's wrong, accidents happen, but that Paul Townend has done nothing wrong because he hasn't felt it. I think those two things can comfortably coexist. Now, I'm not suggesting that James Given doesn't mean what he says, but I wondered whether the BHA were trying to overcompensate almost.
We can have both of those opinions, obviously, but nobody can tell. Paul Townend is the only person who can tell what he felt aboard that horse. Yeah. We can all say what we see, but it's entirely the man on board that has that feel.
I want to talk, Dave, about the communication of this. Now, there was quite a lengthy hiatus between the time this happened and the time we got the official line from the BHA and the report of the Stewards' inquiry. Now, I appreciate there are procedures to go through, but within that 90-minute period, or however long it was, it felt like a long time.
It did.
People will then fill the void with speculation. If you're going to be front foot and communicative, and appreciate all the efforts the BHA have made in that regard, I think you have to be quicker.
Definitely, and you're so right about the void. You're waiting for something to come through. You're waiting for the update, and you look on Twitter, and you see the things from people with racing accounts, people within the sport, what's being put out there. And you know that this is big, you're just waiting for the official line. What's the steward's inquiry? What's happened? What's the explanation? And it did take too long, in my view. It was something that should have been prioritised. We knew we knew that incident was going to be on the BBC News at 10. It was. You knew it was going to be the lead story on the BBC website and various other ones as well for the day from Aintree. It was. And I just felt that our reaction to it was a little bit too slow.
And I appreciate that you've got to do things properly, procedurally, and the Stewards' inquiry has to take place. But actually, between the end of the Stewards' inquiry and that being written up and the time that we were all briefed in the media and the time that they came on to do the television interviews, that was kind of a long period of time. And, of course, then speculation on social media will spread like wildfire. We've also, Lisa, got this extraordinary contrast now between the fact that we on Racing TV made an editorial decision not to show any part of the race again. ITV showed one brief replay and then didn't show anything else again. Now, the sensitivities of the viewer have to be uppermost in our minds. I appreciate that. But, of course, it's a counterpoint to the fact that on social media, people are replaying it over and over and over and over again. So there's a sort of mainstream sensitivity on one respect and almost a ghoulish fascination with the mechanics of what happened on another. And it becomes extremely difficult then to manage the communication of that. Yeah,
it does. It's very difficult when there's, I think, all of a sudden there's an influx on social media of everyone wanting to show what's happened and have an opinion. And then there's that difference, I suppose, of the people who are on site and the people who are to deal with it on air, to deal with it in the right way. But yeah, it's you know, there's two completely different levels, and it's it can be hard to figure them out. And
again, Dave, whilst I totally understand why at a meeting like Aintree it's very important you get your communication right, you also have to accept that accidents will happen. And this wasn't anybody's fault.
Absolutely.
And therefore, you don't have to create a set of reasons for it happening and create a justification for the jockey carrying on.
And that was the point, because that's what was filling the void. The blame game was taking place before we got the stewards' inquiry, and absolutely right. Accidents do. This sport, we cannot remove risk from it. We cannot. We looked at that Grand National. People said how wonderful it was that the drama was back, the incidents were back. Had there been a sad ending to one of those, people wouldn't have been talking about the Grand National in such glowing terms. All we can do is trust that the BHA, the Jockey Club, the people who put the sport on, make it as safe as possible, and we do. We know how much. That's why the welfare, the horsepower campaigns, trying to get on the front foot. The message that these horses are so well looked after and loved at home.
We know
that's the minimum. That's the minimum expectation the general
exactly.
public have got.
That
we
much
need to go above and beyond with all the other work that's going on right now.
But speed of communication, clarity of communication, absolutely key, and owning the idea that the sport presents with it an inherent degree of risk. Yeah. If you are taking the right responsibility to mitigate against that risk, which is normally the case. How about the festival as a whole and how we felt about the 3 days? Attendances were very good. The weather was OK without being spectacular, but not a lot we can do about that. But the people were having a very good time.
I defy anybody not to enjoy Aintree. Aintree is allowed to enjoy itself in a way that Cheltenham isn't. It doesn't go under the scrutiny that Cheltenham does from sort of 9 months out about how much a drink is, etc. But the
different kind of scrutiny, isn't it?
It is a different kind of scrutiny. But the people of Liverpool, this belongs to them. I mean, sold out Friday, Saturday. What a phenomenal achievement that is. A healthy crowd Thursday. And there's something for everybody at Aintree. The parties that are going on behind the stands, the music. People are there. I was talking to somebody on Saturday was complaining there were so many young people there. I thought, of all the things we've got left to complain about in racing, the fact that Aintree can bring in 65,000 people to the racecourse 2 successive days to enjoy our sport is just phenomenal. And
lest you think it was just about the O Beach and the Red Rum Lawn and all the people revelling there was the new Zero bar, wasn't it, opened by Rachel Blackmore?
Yeah, Rachel Blackmore opened a new bar, which was a non-alcoholic bar, and she got her name.
I didn't visit.
Of Aintree. No, you didn't. No, I think you're in the O Beach somewhere.
I quite fancied a trip to the O Beach.
But there was experiences for everyone to be had at Aintree. It's a place I love going. It's vibrant, it's fun, it's exciting, and it's so well supported. The people of Liverpool just get so behind this festival. Not that they don't anywhere else, but they really do here at Aintree, and it's a fascinating watch. Also, we always have the ladies' day. The women turn out in full force as well for it.
Yeah, there was just one. Our cameraman Aidan just brought over to our position yesterday one stray heel. There's one just the heel off the gold heel off the stiletto. All of this, of course, might be threatened if the mainstream media's reporting of Green Party leader Zach Polanski's thoughts on horse racing, historic thoughts on horse racing, are to be believed, and the Green Party get a significant foothold at the next general election. Now, you can debate what he actually said, Dave, historically, but what you can't debate is that horse racing is something that will be used in the culture wars and will be seen as something that can be a vote winner or loser, particularly yoked to the debate surrounding gambling and gambling-related harm.
Absolutely, and it's the social licence was put straight into his spot. I mean, that was a historic tweet. He retweeted a tweet about Gold Dancer as well, which could somebody commenting on the. We've always said that the banning of horse racing or the banning of the Grand National would end up one day somewhere in a manifesto. Political manifesto was what people would fear. That's why we were trying to get on the front foot with a welfare message, all the incredible work that goes on in this sport. And I think this was the first time people would actually see in the headlines. Now, to be fair, the Green Party did tweet their actual policy on horse racing, which isn't to ban horse racing, it's to...
It is to ban the whip.
Abuse of the whip and an increased levy to fund further welfare. So there'll be an enhanced levy, which will come down, I'm sure somewhere later on the talking points, put on horse racing bets to go more into the welfare of horses. So they weren't calling for a ban, but the historic tweets, it was all in there. And I thought, Grand National Week, the spotlight is always on this, isn't like no other. We know that we're going to be front and centre, and that the people who want the horse racing banned, this is their showcase as much as ours to celebrate the world's greatest race. And that was the front page of a national newspaper.
But it's interesting, obviously, the Sun are not going to be aligned politically to the Green Party, but it was interesting that they know how powerful the Grand National is for the Red Tops, for their business, for their punters, and the fact that they elided the two things to make that front page story told you that this might be a glimpse into the future.
And you talk to the people in the papers, the two things that sell more papers are Cheltenham and the Grand National still. That's still the only two events that pull-outs go in and circulation increases.
Yeah, there did seem to be, I don't know, a greater awareness that the Grand National was happening this year, I felt. And it'd be interesting to see whether that's reflected as we find out how that played with the viewing public later on in the day. This was some really sad news, and I almost feel guilty that we haven't given this enough play. The death of Gewan, the Dewhurst winner, and a key fancy for the 2,000 guineas in a gallop at Kempton this week. And we were so diverted by everything that was going on at Aintree, Lisa. But however big your stable is, and Andrew Balding's got lots of lovely horses, to have that horse that's your classic horse, your early classic horse, and to have that dream extinguished like that in such cruel fashion, that must be a huge blow.
Yeah, but having a classic contender is the future, isn't it? You know, it's your flag bearer for that season ahead. I always remember watching Gewan back in the Acomb in York, like this big, robust, you know, horse that you knew was always going to be better with another year under his belt. But like such a devastating blow for the team, for the Andrew Balding team, to lose a horse like that. Obviously, I think it happened at a gallop in Kempton or something unfortunate like that. But a massive blow for the whole team, and I'm sure they're entirely devastated over it. Yeah, very, very hard to take. And, you know, it's... just a horse that I always thought had the potential to be much, much better for the season that was ahead of him, but it's not to be.
Yeah, and if National Hunt Racing is all about returning heroes, the beauty of flat racing at this time of the year is about renewal and new stars and fresh faces. That was a huge blow, and the 2,000 guineas has taken another blow with the news that Publish, albeit that he's very much still with us, is a horse who will not be in training for a little while now. Yeah,
I think a couple of weeks he's going to be out of training. He was lame, and the dogs were beginning to bark about Publish a little bit, weren't they? I mean, he was always really highly regarded. He was second to Bow Creek in the Ascendant at Haydock, and Bow Creek's now Guinea's favourite. So, yeah, well, we've lost a key character there. I mean, we've got the Craven next week. Aidan's got runners. Charlie Appleby's got one that's won a couple at Kempton. Taste of New York, or Toast of New York, the horse of Charlie's that people are excited about.
Talk of New York.
Talk of New York. I knew I'd get there eventually. He's having a racecourse gallop there as well. It makes you wonder, Aidan's computer's now got the Timeform squiggle. They might well be forced to 5 it back up to supplement the two.
The Ballydoyle mainframe could be going into overdrive. Now, the British Horse Racing Authority this week wrote a letter to the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, about the dangers to the sport of the impending affordability checks we've spoken about so much on this show. Got 400 signatories as well. Good, robust leadership, Dave, or not enough and not timely enough?
I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? They say over 400 signatures in there, but you do fear the horse might have bolted here. It's a campaign that we're now talking about being more active in, more... I mean, there's a really good interview that you did on your daily podcast with Brant about it. It's interesting, isn't it, the affordability checks, because we're at such a critical time now. We're staring down the barrel here. The pilot scheme that came in, it could be green-lighted in the coming months. And just looking in, it was supposed to be proportionate. It was supposed to be frictionless. The gauge you're getting from these affordability checks that people are going through, it hasn't been that. And the interview from last week, this looming black market threat, it isn't imaginary. People are talking that these could cost racing's finances £250 million over 5 years. We are a sport that's got £250 million to lose over 5 years.
There was too much of a developing narrative in the lead up to the budget that suggested that the danger of the black market was being overblown. Yeah. And I think there's very few people who will subscribe to that theory now.
And I thought the interview last week just showed... People have never thought about how easy it is to find it. They thought it was hidden away in a corner somewhere that you had to stumble across. And clearly, and the whole idea of affordability checks is safety for customers. It's such an important part for licensed bookmakers. It's got to be such a key part of their business. The vast, vast majority of people bet without any problems. It's a hobby. It's one of their pastimes. And the people who would be driven to the black market are the exact people who shouldn't be. A good chunk of them. It's frightening on all elements to it.
And Brad Darche, the BHA's chief executive, will be a guest on this show in a special edition next week, Sunday, April the 19th. Now, Lisa, the Irish fuel protests could start to have a significant bearing on movement of horses around Ireland and in and out of Ireland, couldn't they? Just explain what's happening here.
Yeah, so obviously I came over to Aintree on Wednesday, and it's really escalated in the last couple of days at home. Obviously, there's a lot of farmers and protests going on, road blockages all around Dublin and a lot of the country as well.
And that's because the government won't cap fuel prices.
They won't cap the fuel prices. That is the problem. They've gone to the extent with these protests of actually blocking the fuel coming in from the ports. So it's gone to the lengths of, I've got messages in WhatsApp groups of pictures of filling stations saying we have no fuel. So, I mean, they are actually letting livestock through some of the traffic, but the traffic and the blockades are just causing absolute chaos in the country at the moment. And I think there is crisis talks to be had over the weekend between both sides. I do hope they come to a quick enough resolution, because it's not something, if it continues, it's just going to cause awful uproar, as it has already, but it's going to escalate and escalate. And yeah, what it's causing in the country at the moment is it's a massive headache for a lot of people who are trying to get anywhere, especially if you're trying to get to race meetings.
Yeah.
I've heard
sales as well.
Sales, if you're trying to get to the port, get off the boat from the port, it's causing havoc. And yeah, I hope it ends pretty quickly now. I'm on a flight home later on today, so hopefully I'll try and avoid some of that in some way, shape or form. But I mean, there's people who just can't avoid this, you know.
And even the Racing TV private jet's going to be affected by the fuel by the fuel crisis.
That could be a problem.
Steepling prices, $1.99 a litre. Last night on my way back at Beaconsfield Services. I mean, smaller businesses in the sport are going to be really badly affected by the cost of fuel.
The overhead. I mean, you imagine, Neil, when we talk about you imagine operations trying to keep going, keep prices down for owners, and they're facing these overheads.
Well, maybe now there's a ceasefire and Trump's excesses maybe are being curbed. Maybe things will get back on the right track. Those were this week's talking points.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.